Hey y'all, welcome back to Therapy in the Soft Life. I'm your host, Asia, and welcome to season two. I'm so happy you're here. This season already feels different in a good way, and I really wanted the first episode to set the tone for where I'm at right now. I've been paying attention to myself in a softer, more intentional way lately, and not in a let me completely change my life kind of way, but just noticing the little things that actually help me feel calm and grounded and overall like my best self. And it's funny because the biggest shifts didn't come from anything dramatic. It was the small habits I started doing without even realizing how much they were helping. So today, I want to talk to you like we're on a FaceTime call, and I'm filling you in on the things that have been making my days feel lighter and a little more aligned. Nothing overwhelming, nothing extra, just habits that support the version of me I'm trying to grow into. So let's get into the first one. This first habit, and honestly, this one surprised me because I would never think I would become that person, but it's waking up early and moving my body. And let me go ahead and say this up front. I am naturally not a morning person. I don't bounce out of bed smiling. I don't float to the gym. I don't wake up looking forward to a workout. But I've noticed that the way I start my morning completely shapes the rest of my day. And getting up before the world gets loud has honestly been such a game changer for my peace. So to give you some backstory, my boyfriend and I, we wake up at like 5 in the morning, which sounds insane, I know, but it works for us. We literally roll out of bed half asleep, trying to convince ourselves we didn't hear the alarm. And every morning I ask myself, do I really want to do this today? But once we're actually up and dressed, it feels good. It feels like we're doing something together, and it feels like we're choosing ourselves before the day chooses chaos. And there's something about being out that early that feels so calm. It's quiet, the air feels different, the gym isn't packed. It gives me this sense of stillness that I rarely get any other time of day. And I didn't realize how much I needed that until I started experiencing it consistently. When my morning starts in peace, my mind moves differently, my emotions feel lighter, and it's like my whole day expands instead of feeling rushed. And it's not the workout itself that changed my life, even though moving my body really does help my anxiety and mood. I think it's the discipline of it all. It's the routine. It's knowing that before I check my phone or let work stress me out or think about what I need to get done, I've already done something for myself. I've taken care of my body. I've woken up my mind. I've given myself a moment where I'm not pouring into anyone else but me. And when we get back home, that's when my mornings start to feel feminine and soft. I'll take a shower, get comfortable, and make my little green tea matcha latte. And that little routine is honestly my favorite part of the day. Something about that latte, the quiet in the house, the slow start, it's the one time of day that feels like mine. I put on some R&B or just enjoy the silence. I don't rush myself. I don't jump straight into work. I just let myself ease into the morning. And it's funny because I used to think routines had to be perfectly aesthetic or complicated to count, but this one feels simple and real. It's just me waking up, taking care of my body, and then giving myself a small moment of calm afterwards. And that combination has made such a difference in my mood, my discipline, and just overall the way I carry myself throughout the day. I didn't expect this habit to change anything, especially because it started as us just trying to be accountable for our fitness. But now it's one of the main things that helps me feel grounded. It's helped with my confidence, it's helped with my consistency in other parts of my life, and most importantly, it's helped me start my mornings with intention instead of confusion. It feels like a grown woman habit in the best way. Something that supports me without draining me, something that makes me feel proud of myself without feeling like I'm forcing anything. So, this next habit is honestly so personal to me, and it's giving myself space when I feel overwhelmed. And I mean real space, not the dramatic, I don't want to talk to anybody ever again. But that soft intentional space where you're like, okay, let me actually understand what I'm feeling before I do too much. I had to learn this about myself the hard way because for the longest time, I didn't understand why I shut down so quickly. Something would bother me or I would get stressed out, and it was like my whole body would just go quiet. I wouldn't want to talk. I wouldn't want to be around anyone. I wouldn't want to explain myself. I just wanted to be left alone. And I used to think that something was wrong with me for that. I would get frustrated with myself, like, why can't I just express how I feel like a normal person? Or why can't I just talk it out immediately? But the older I got, the more I realized that taking space isn't avoidance. It's actually me trying not to cause more problems. And it's me trying to understand my emotions before I put them on anyone else. It's me trying to calm down so I don't say things I don't mean. It's me grounding myself instead of reacting from a place of confusion or frustration. And when I really sat with that, I noticed that I'm the kind of person who needs silence to process. I need a moment. I need to be in my own little corner of peace so I can figure out what's actually going on inside me. Because sometimes you think you're mad, but you're really anxious. Or you think you're irritated, but you're really overwhelmed. And I won't know the difference unless I slow everything down. For me, taking space can look a lot of ways. Sometimes I sit on the edge of my bed and just breathe until my mind slows down. Or sometimes I take a shower to reset my energy. Sometimes I just lay down, stare at the ceiling, and let myself feel whatever I'm feeling without judging it. And the key is that I don't rush myself anymore. I don't pressure myself to talk before I'm ready, and I don't let anyone else pressure me either. If I need a minute, I'm gonna take it, and I don't apologize for it. And what's funny is that once I stopped fighting that part of myself, my communication actually got so much better. I don't snap the way I used to. I don't shut down in the same way. And when I do go quiet, I understand why. Instead of feeling guilty or embarrassed about it, I come back to conversations with real clarity. I can actually explain what I'm feeling instead of trying to talk while I'm still in the middle of processing. It feels like such a grown womanship. Like, knowing when you need a second, taking it with confidence, and then returning with softness instead of chaos. It's one of the prettiest forms of emotional maturity, in my opinion. Being self aware enough to say, let me understand myself first before I try to make someone else understand me. And that mindset has made my relationships, my communication, and honestly, my peace feel so much easier to maintain. So, the next habit is honestly one of my favorites because it feels so me. It's having those little rituals throughout my day that make me feel put together, even when life is chaotic. And when I say rituals, I don't mean anything dramatic or aesthetic or something I have to force myself to do. I'm talking about those small things I naturally gravitate towards because they make me feel good. They make me feel feminine and they bring me back to myself. So for me, it's skincare. That's like my number one ritual. I could be exhausted, stressed out, or in my little feelings, and I'm still going to do my skincare. Something about it feels calming and grounding, like it pulls me out of whatever headspace I'm in and reminds me, like, okay, you're here. You're okay. You're taking care of yourself. And it's just something about the warm water, the clean face, the moisturizer. It all just makes me feel human again. Then the next thing is perfume. Girl, I will put on perfume even if I'm just going to Target. I don't know what it is, but smelling good makes me feel like my life is together even when it's absolutely not. It makes me feel soft and feminine and grown in a way nothing else does. It's like a little confidence boost you carry around with you. And same with keeping my nails done. I don't care if it's press-ons, and honestly, having press-ons has become my best friend, but having my nails done makes me feel put together. It's such a small detail, but it does something for my spirit. And another thing is, my home plays a big role in this too. I keep it clean because clutter stresses me out instantly. There's something about waking up to a clean house or coming home to a space that smells good that puts me in a better mood without me even trying. Every time I light a candle or turn on my wax warmer or spray my room with something warm and pretty, it shifts my whole energy. It makes my space feel safe. It makes me feel like I can actually relax and breathe. And don't get me started on a light makeup moment. Even on days where I don't need makeup, I'll still do a little something like concealer, lip gloss, brows, just because it makes me feel good. And it's not about trying to be seen or trying to impress anybody. It's just about making myself feel like the best version of me. Those little things might look small from the outside, but they do so much for my spirit. They make me feel feminine in a way that isn't performative. It's just who I am. And they help me show up in my life feeling calm, pretty, centered, and most of all, confident. And the more I started embracing those tiny rituals instead of brushing them off as unimportant, the more I realized that's what self care really is. It's not always deep or intense. Sometimes it's just doing the small things that bring you back to yourself. And honestly, I think every woman should have her little rituals and tiny things that make her feel soft and cared for, even on days where nothing else feels steady. It's not shallow, it's not extra, it's not doing the most. It's just honoring yourself in the day to day. Well, the next habit, and I swear this one changed my relationships more than anything, is practicing soft boundaries. And when I say soft boundaries, I don't mean cutting everybody off or being cold or acting unbothered. What I mean is learning how to protect my peace in a way that still feels feminine, warm, and true to who I am. For the longest time, I felt like I either had to completely shut down or completely let everything slide. There was no in between. I was either doing the absolute most to keep the peace or I was shutting down so I wouldn't explode. And neither of those felt good. And neither of those felt like the version of myself I was trying to become. But I realized that I don't need to match other people's energy. I don't need to explain myself to the point where I feel depleted. I don't need to defend every feeling I have just to be understood. Sometimes a boundary can just be soft. It can be calm. It can be simple. It can be, I don't have the capacity for this right now. Or can we talk about this later? Or even, that didn't feel good to me. And let me be real, learning how to speak up without getting defensive was a whole journey for me. I used to feel like I needed to write a whole essay every time I said no. I didn't want anyone to think I was being mean or difficult. And you know how we get as women. We try so hard to not disappoint anybody that we end up disappointing ourselves. But the soft version of boundaries feels so different. It's like I can communicate what I need without losing my softness. I can say how something made me feel without arguing or raising my voice. I can step back from a situation without creating conflict. I can stop over explaining. I can stop shrinking myself just to make other people comfortable. And one thing that helped me a lot was paying attention to how my body feels when something isn't right with me. Sometimes my boundary shows up before my words do. So that can look like feeling uneasy, feeling tense, feeling drained, or feeling like I'm about to overextend myself. And instead of ignoring that feeling like I've used to, I've learned to honor it. I pay attention to it, I respect it because my body usually knows before I do. And honestly, setting boundaries softly has made me feel more feminine, not less. It's allowed me to stay in my softness while still standing up for myself. It's helped me communicate from a place of clarity instead of frustration. And it's helped me maintain connections without feeling overwhelmed or resentful. And it feels like such a grown woman thing to say. I love you, but I still need space. Or I care, but I can't carry this right now. Or I hear you, but this doesn't work for me. Saying those things calmly without guilt has brought me so much peace. And the best part about it, people respond to this version of me so much better. They respect me more. They take me seriously without me having to raise my voice or sound harsher than I want to. And it's like the more I lean into my softness, the more confident I become. Softness doesn't make me weaker. I feel it makes me much more clearer. So the next habit, and this one is definitely a work in progress for me, is learning how to catch those little thoughts that make me way too hard on myself. because I've realized I don't need anybody else to judge me. My mind is already going to do that on its own. And it's crazy how fast those thoughts can pop in. Those thoughts like, I should be doing more, or I need to do everything right, or people are disappointed in me, or even I'm too sensitive. You know the ones, the thoughts that feel small but hit a little too close. And for a long time, I didn't even question them. I just believed them. Anytime something didn't go perfectly, I would immediately think it was my fault. Anytime I was tired or overwhelmed, I would start telling myself I wasn't doing enough. Anytime I had an emotional reaction, I would shame myself for not being stronger. And I didn't realize how draining that was until I started paying attention to the way those thoughts made me feel physically. I would be so tense and anxious and closed off, like I had something to prove all the time. But the more I slowed down, the more I realized that I can't be the woman I'm becoming if I'm constantly talking to myself like I'm failing. That's not soft. That's not feminine. It's not aligned. And it definitely doesn't reflect the truth. So I've been trying to practice something different. Instead of jumping straight to the harsh thought, I pause and I question it. I try to understand where it's coming from. And a lot of times, those thoughts aren't even real. They're old stuff, old pressure, old expectations we put on ourselves, old ways of thinking. Sometimes they're not even mine. They're things I picked up from people I thought I had to impress or standards I thought I had to meet to be quote unquote enough. And realizing that has helped me soften so much. So now when I catch myself thinking I'm not doing enough, I remind myself that I'm one person and my worth isn't measured by productivity. If I catch myself thinking people are disappointed in me, I remind myself that the people who matter wouldn't love me any less for being human. And when I catch myself thinking I need to do everything right, I remind myself that perfection was never the goal. Being present is. And I'll be honest, girl, it takes work. It's not something you master overnight. It's something you practice over and over and over again. And every time you challenge one of those thoughts, even in a small way, you soften your whole world a little more. So, one thing that's helped me a lot is flipping the voice in my head to something more gentle and not something like overly positive or fake, but just a more kinder voice to myself. If I'm exhausted, instead of saying, "Why are you slacking?" I say, "You're tired and it's okay to rest." If I'm overwhelmed, instead of saying, "You should handle this better," I say, "You're doing your best, just breathe." If I'm emotional, instead of saying, "You're too sensitive," I say, "Your feelings are valid." It's positive self talk and it sounds small, but it changes everything. It builds confidence in the smallest ways. It makes you feel more supported by yourself instead of criticized by yourself. And honestly, the more gentle I am with my thoughts, the more grounded I feel. Like I'm finally giving myself permission to just be a person, a real one, not a perfect one. And that mindset shift, that's what makes femininity feel deeper. It's not about the outside things, it's about the way you treat yourself when no one else is around. That's what we call real softness. So, the next habit, and this one is honestly such a big part of my piece, is keeping my space soft and comforting. I never realized how much my environment affects my mood until I started paying attention to the days where everything felt heavier for no real reason. And 9 times out of 10, it was because my space felt chaotic or out of order or just not soft. And I've learned that I function so much better when my home feels like a little sanctuary. And it doesn't have to be perfect or aesthetic or spotless 24/7. I don't think that's realistic. But I do try to keep it at a level where I can breathe when I walk in the door. Because nothing stresses me out more than clutter or things being everywhere or my space feeling like another thing I have to fight with. My home sets the tone for my energy. And when my home feels peaceful, I feel peaceful. There's something about a clean kitchen in the morning that just feels like a good start. Or coming home to a bed that looks inviting instead of thrown together. Or walking into a room that smells good and like, girl, I don't know what it is about a good candle or wax smell or room spray, but it just shifts the whole vibe. It instantly makes me feel settled and it instantly makes me feel like everything is going to be okay. And I'm big on the little small comforts too, like soft blankets, the way my couch feels, warm lighting instead of bright, harsh lights, tiny touches that just make my space feel like a hug. I don't think people realize how much those small details matter until they start prioritizing them. Your home should feel like somewhere you actually want to be, not another thing that's draining you. And for me, keeping my space soft is all about the energy in it. I like things to feel calm. I like things to feel feminine. I like things to feel like they reflect who I am. So I try to maintain that, not in a perfect way, but in an intentional way. If I'm having a hard day, the first thing I do is reset my space. So that's opening a window, putting on some music, lighting something that smells good, clearing off a surface. And it's crazy how fast it shifts my mindset. It's like, okay, now I can think. But I realized that my home is where I practice being a woman I want to be, the soft woman, the grounded woman, the calm woman, the woman who takes her time, who doesn't rush everything, who actually enjoys small moments. And creating that environment for myself didn't come from having fancy things. It came from treating my space like it deserves to feel good because I deserve to feel good in it. And honestly, once you get used to your home feeling soft and peaceful, it becomes your standard. You'll feel it the second something throws off the energy, and you'll fix it immediately because you know how good it feels when your space is in alignment with you. So, the last habit is honestly one of the most important ones for me, and that's talking to myself gently. And I know it sounds simple, but it has changed my entire relationship with myself. Because if I'm being honest, I used to be so mean to myself without even realizing it. I would say things in my head that I would never say to another person, like ever. And half the time, it wasn't even intentional. It was just the automatic way I spoke to myself. And once I actually started paying attention to the things I was telling myself, I realized how heavy some of those messages were. Like when I would mess something up or fall behind, I would immediately jump to, you're not doing enough. Or if I was tired and needed a break, I would judge myself and think, you should be trying harder. And even when I was emotional, I would be like, you're too sensitive, get over it. And hearing myself think those things, it made sense why I felt so weighed down all the time. I was carrying pressure I didn't even need to be carrying. So to fix that, I started practicing being softer with myself, not in a corny way, not in a cliche affirmation way, but in a real human, grown woman, gentle kind of way. The same way I would talk to a friend I love, or the same way I would want someone to talk to me. And my version of gentleness sounds like you're doing a great job, not because everything is perfect, but because I know I'm genuinely trying. And it can also sound like slow down because I move so fast sometimes that I forget I'm allowed to take my time. And it can also sound like you're doing better than you think because half the time I'm judging myself off of standards I didn't even set. And these aren't big affirmations. They're not things I say in a mirror or write in a planner. They're just small reminders I give myself throughout the day whenever I feel that old pressure creeping back in. If I feel overwhelmed, I'll breathe and tell myself, you don't have to figure everything out today. Or if I'm emotional, I'll tell myself, it's okay to feel it. It's the same thing I'll tell my clients, honestly. And if I'm tired, I'll say, resting doesn't mean you're failing, it means you're human. And the thing is, the more I talk to myself gently, the more I trust myself. I don't feel like I'm fighting myself anymore. I don't feel like I'm constantly disappointing myself. I don't feel like I have something to prove every second of the day. And that has softened my whole world. It's made me approach everything like relationships, work, my goals, stress from a more calmer place. And I think softness is really about the relationship you have with yourself, how you speak to yourself, how you comfort yourself, how you allow yourself to grow without expecting perfection. And once you start giving yourself that grace, everything else feels lighter. All right, y'all. So that's all seven. And I hope you can hear how simple they are, but also how much they've done for me. None of them are huge, life altering routines. None of them require you to become a whole new person by tomorrow. They're really just little things that help me grow into myself in a softer, more intentional way. I think sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves to have everything figured out or to make these big dramatic changes when honestly, you can build a whole new version of your life by paying attention to the tiny things you do every day. So that's the way you wake up, the way you take care of your home, the way you talk to yourself when you make a mistake, the way you give yourself space when you need it. Those moments matter and those moments shape you. And the more I leaned into those habits, the more I noticed I wasn't operating from survival mode anymore. I wasn't being so hard on myself. I wasn't rushing everything. I wasn't ignoring how I felt just to get through the day. I was actually creating a life that feels good to live and a life that feels peaceful and feminine and soft in a way that makes sense for me. And if you're listening to this and thinking, okay, girl, okay, Asia, I don't know where to start, just start small. Just pick one thing that makes your day feel a tiny bit better and do it consistently. You're not behind, you're not late, you're not failing. You're just growing at your own pace. I hope this episode made you feel seen. I hope it made you feel less alone. And I hope it reminded you that softness isn't weakness. It's actually one of the strongest things you can claim for yourself. So, with all that being said, thank you for hanging out with me today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting the rebrand. And thank you for being here as I grow into this new version of myself. Season 2 is going to be so good, and I can't wait to talk to you again in the next episode. But until next time, talk to you soon.